We'll continue our focus on network security services provided by Azure DDoS Protection. So Azure DDoS Protection basically protects at layer 3 and layer 4 network layers. For web application protection at layer 7, you need to add protection at the application layer using the WAF offerings. Let's understand DDoS with this example. One day out of blue, a bunch of people pack into a small shop, makes it super crowded for the customers to go in and out. These extra folks, they're not there to shop. Instead, they just want to disturb the regular work at shop. The shop meant for just few customers gets super crowded and the regular work at the shop becomes impossible. That's what a DDoS attack is like. And today, distributed denial of services attack are one of the most sophisticated cyber attacks out there, causing serious damage to the targeted enterprises. I will explain DDoS attacks, including how it works, type of DDoS attacks, and we will also talk about some important stats about the DDoS, how to detect them, and how Azure DDoS protection prevents DDoS attacks. First thing first, you can only be attacked when you are visible to the cyber criminal, and in this case it is just going to be the public IP what you are going to configure on the services what you build on the cloud or maybe somewhere on the enterprise network, or it can be any equipment which is equipped with the public IP address. A denial of service DOS attack is a cyber attack that basically floods a host machine, network, or services with a larger volume of requests or malicious network traffic packets that it cannot handle. A system under such attack can become completely unresponsive, slow in responding, disrupting its services to the legitimate user. In other hand, a distributed denial of services DDoS attack is a variation of DOS. An attack becomes distributed DOS attack when the large volume of traffic is generated for a host machine or the networks or services coming from different source. So in this case, you can see the source are different. They can be different IP addresses, different geography locations. So in a way, this volumetric attack is launched by many hosts. Azure DDoS protection can mitigate the following type of attacks. One is going to be the volumetric attack, second is going to be the protocol, and the third one is going to be the application layer attacks. We are going to talk about all these three and with details. Volume-based attacks attempts to consume the available bandwidth of the target by saturating the bandwidth of the network. Attackers can carry out such attacks in several different ways. For example, you can quote a attack which is a flood of ICMP packet and user data protocol UDP packets to saturate its bandwidth. Another popular volumetric attack is DNS amplification. There, an attacker asks an open DNS server to look up for the domain name, pretending to be the target system. When the DNS server replies with the DNS record, it doesn't go back to the person who asked, but to the target. So the target gets much bigger response than the tiny question the attacker first sent. So you can see this on the top, there's an attacker and it can compromise lot many machines. Those can be hosted in the cloud or somewhere else. And you try to pretend these are the legitimate users. And when all together they try to do some sort of attack, it get combined and consume all the available bandwidth. Other type of attacks, you can code the UDP flood, NTP, IPsec, DNS amplification. These are the famous attacks which can basically bring down the whole network. Let's talk about the protocol attacks. These attacks basically render a target inaccessible by exploiting a weakness in the layer 3 and layer 4 protocol stack. They include SYN flood attacks, reflection attacks, and other protocol attacks as well. In a SYN flood attack, a malicious party exploits the TCP protocol three-way handshake. We all know it whenever we do a browsing to HTTP and HTTPS servers, there's always a TCP handshake where you exchange SYN, SYNAC, ACK, and then the data transfer happens. So in this case, what will happen when the malicious party exploit the TCP three-way handshake to quickly cause service and network disruption, ultimately leading to denial of service attack. In SYN flood, the attacker sends a high volume of SYN packets. So in this example, if this is the attacker who compromise all these machines, they will start sending the SYN packet towards this target. So in a SYN flood, what we are seeing, attacker sends a high volume of SYN packet to the server using the spoofed IP addresses, causing the server to send a reply, which is going to be the SYN ACK, and leave it to the half open port, awaiting for a response from the host, which does not exist. That means while entertaining all these SYN packets, it will exhaust all its capacity. And there won't be any room for the new request because whenever the new request comes, it will also contain the SYN packet. And since there is no room, the legitimate users, they won't be able to browse any of the web traffic or web server. The third type attack is going to be the resource or application layer attacks. And these attacks basically target web application packets to disrupt the transmission of the data between hosts. They include HTTP protocol violations, SQL injection, cross-site scripting, and other layers-driven attacks. Use a web application firewall such as application gateway web application firewall as well as DDoS protection to provide defense against these attacks. SQL injection, for example, is a code injection technique that can getting important information from your database. So SQL injection can go as far as destroying your databases. These are the type of SQL injections. For more information, you can refer to some research paper or do the Google to get more about the SQL injections. Azure DDoS network protection can be configured in two tiers. The first one is going to be the network protection, and the second one is going to be the IP protection. Azure DDoS network protection combined with application design best practices provides enhanced DDoS mitigation feature to defend against DDoS attacks. It is automatically tuned to help protect your specific Azure resources in a virtual network. DDoS IP protection is a pay per protected IP model. So there are two, and you need to choose. If you go for the network protection, everything which is going to be part of this network will be protected. And if you want to go for specific IP addresses, considering your cost optimization and all those things, you can go for pay per IP basis. So the option is with you. DDoS network protection is enabled on the virtual network of the Azure Internet Load Balancer that has a public IP associated with it. So here you can see this is a public IP which is getting protected. And in this case, everything which is part of this virtual network will be protected. DDoS IP protection is enabled on the front-end public IP address of the public load balancer. You can use it for IS and PaaS web application architecture as well. Let's understand a bit deeper why we should use DDoS network protection. We talked about so many applications or services like load balancer, firewall, or maybe you're using the skill set which is associated to the VM. And your public IP is visible, and if it is visible to the internet, anybody can launch the attack. And the moment there's an attack which is launched, what will happen? All these services they will assume is a legitimate traffic which is coming to them, and they might increasing is their own size, and everything is just a VM. The more VM it spins to accommodate that traffic, your cost is going to be higher and higher. So for mitigate this issue, what Azure does, they have the scripting center and there is a limited capacity, and though the capacity is going to be in terabits per second, mitigation, which might be higher from other vendors as well. So all the traffic, whenever there is a trigger that this is a kind of the DDoS attack, all the traffic will be directed to the scrubbing centers, and scrubbing center, it will basically do the filtration. All the bad traffic will be dropped and the good traffic will be forwarded to your resources. So your resource availability remains same. So that is the one thing you need to keep in mind. So it is highly recommended any public IP, what you use on your network, on the resources, and if it is visible to internet, then you should ensure there's a DDoS services, those are enabled. In the next section, I will be doing the lab to show you live how you can enable the DDoS services, and then same time, how do you enable the logging where you can see the metrics and all those things. Thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next section.